Hello and welcome to I'm a Terrible Feminist. I'm David.
And I'm Nicole.
And Teresa is not here with us today. We're both having kind of a crazy month and we just couldn't make the connection work, so I have Nicole here with me. Nicole, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been kind of actively involved in feminism probably since my high school senior year, where I started working with Planned Parenthood, so yes, I'm a little biased here.
It's alright, I also did that.
Yeah, so David and I actually met as part of Vox, which is a campus club in college for Planned Parenthood, and yeah, still try and stay involved.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Today, if you will recall from our last podcast, Teresa and I had said that we were going to discuss reproductive rights, and that is what Nicole and I are going to discuss without Teresa. Though we might have a what track to play for you later. It might play right here.
What?
I just don't know. Anyway, the first thing we wanted to do was define reproductive rights. Do you want to take it away?
So reproductive rights is basically that we want medically accurate, totally truthful information regarding our reproduction, men and women.
Makes sense.
And other gendered folks, as well as, in my opinion, the fight for getting equal protection under the law, because right now women don't have a lot of autonomy when it comes to the legal process and our bodies.
Yeah, and men have a lot more of those rights and those protections in place with our current system. Some types of contraception that you might hear about are condoms. Well, there's basically two that I'm aware of. There's barrier methods and there are hormonal methods. And so condom is a great example of a barrier method. There are male condoms and female condoms, as they are designated. There are also dental dams, which are great for oral sex and hand play. And there are hormonal methods such as the pill, IUDs, morning after pill. NuvaRing, thank you.
The Implanon as well.
Implanon?
Implanon is a kind of flexible, little, almost stick-looking thing.
Is it the one they inject in your arm?
So it's not the shot. There's a Depo-Bear that's a shot, and then this is literally like they cut your arm, they put in this little rubbery thing, and it slowly releases hormones.
So it's like you're an awesome cyborg.
Sure.
Of nothing.
Sure, yeah. Also, IUDs can be either hormonal or barrier, depending on which one you have.
This is true, because there's the copper ones and the non-copper ones?
Yep. So the non-copper is
Sorry, I'm dropping pencils.
the hormonal barrier, or the hormonal contraceptive, and the copper T is the barrier method.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of different ways that you take these contraceptions, and you should really talk to a doctor to understand fully how to use them. There is also in the works a form of male contraception, which is currently in the form of an injection, and you get an injection in your genitals, I believe, right?
It's like at the top of the testicles, like right into the scrotum, as far as
I knew you had a scrotum, boy. Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy, listen to the last episode. Yes, and so that one is looking at maybe being in use by 2017. Not all methods of contraception protect against STDs and STIs. The barrier methods of condoms, dental dams are the main ones that I'm aware of, and then the hormonal ones only protect against pregnancy. They do not protect against STDs or STIs. Just in case anybody does not know, STDs and STIs are sexually transmitted diseases or infections. I believe the now common term is STI instead. I'm just from the group where we were taught both, and so I always say both.
Yeah, so STIs are the ones that are curable. And STDs are the ones that you're stuck with. They're also commonly the H ones, so HIV, herpes, hepatitis, and HPV.
Whoa! I learned something new today.
Awesome. I think a lot of the conversation, too, around the male birth control is a lot of guys aren't going to be into it, especially because it's an injection into their scrotum, which, yeah, doesn't sound super appealing. I know they're also working on a pill, but it sounds like the injection's going to come first.
Yeah, well, I think that makes sense because that's more direct into the source. But, there's, I don't know how common this phrase is, but I've heard the phrase double Dutch before, where you use more than one type of birth control.
Okay.
And so it's like you use a condom in conjunction with the hormonal method, and now you could use a condom with 2 hormonal methods if you want to really, really, really make sure that you're not getting pregnant, which can be a really safe thing for some people, because there's always a chance of, that 0.0001% chance.
Yeah, totally. You should always double up in some ways that are safe. Obviously, don't wear 2 condoms at once.
Thank you.
Terrible idea, including no male and female. Not even if that way.
The problem with wearing 2 condoms, either 2 male condoms or 2 female condoms or a combination thereof, is that friction will cause them to tear.
Yeah.
So, and also use water-based lubricant.
I believe so.
Because I remember when peanut butter was used, it didn't work out well for the balloon.
I don't know about that one.
Well, so when I first volunteered for Planned Parenthood, we blew up a balloon, and they were like, "Look, don't use water-based lubricants." And we're like, "Oh crap! Since we're in Planned Parenthood, there are no non-water-based lubricants." But we had an Adam's peanut butter in the nearby, and so we rubbed that on the balloon, and it popped.
Okay. So no peanut butter. Don't
use peanut butter. Bad choices. There are a lot of reasons to use birth control that are not necessarily related to pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of them for folks include controlling when your period happens and menstrual cramps. It can be for acne. That's when it was first proposed to me by my doctor, is for acne. Endometriosis.
Is that like ovarian cysts?
Endometriosis, as far as I understand it, is there's a large buildup of blood, kind of like when you're preparing for your period and the lining of the uterus fills with blood, but there's just way more, and it makes intercourse and just kind of daily life more painful.
Yeah, it sounds like a good thing to have some medication for.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the reason I thought ovarian cysts is because that's the main thing that I hear about from some of my friends, is they're like, my ovaries hurt so much because of the cysts.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then there are some people who would take them who would use birth control just for STD and STI prevention, presumably, who can't have children but don't want to get disease.
Yeah, if they're using barrier methods.
Yeah, if they're using a barrier method. That would be with a barrier method.
And again, totally, you can mix barrier and hormonal, but also people shouldn't be mixing hormonal methods. Like if you're already on the pill, don't also take another hormonal hormonal message. Hormonal method. But as we said, we can have 2 different people both using hormonal methods, and that's cool.
And at this point, Teresa was with us in the planning process for us, and this is one of the points where she was like, what about different sizes of condoms? Let's talk a little bit about that. And when my mother, this is a great a great experience for me as a child. No, I think it's great that parents talk to their kids about sex. I think it's highly important, and I think the fact that my parents were open with me has led to me having a healthier sexual life.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a great thing. My parents are great. My mom got a condom out of her purse and was like, all right, guys, it's time to learn what condoms are. And I was the youngest of my brothers, and so my brothers, who are, 16, 18, are like, oh, we already know, we went through the class. But, for 11-year-old David, you have to go through it. And so she takes the condom and she, she checks the expiration date, checks for the air bubble, opens it to the side, not using her teeth.
Or scissors.
Thank goodness my mother did not do that. And then she pinched the tip and rolled it onto her hand. And she covered her entire hand. And my mother, doesn't have giant hands, doesn't have small hands, just regular sized hands. And then she kept rolling it. And then she rolled it down to her elbow. And she has a normal sized arm. And then she rolled it all the way up to her shoulder. And her entire arm is in this condom. And then she starts trying to put the other arm into it. And I have managed to get both of my forearms into a condom before. That is a regular sized condom. And there are some people who do require a larger size condom. There are some people who require a smaller size condom. But as a rule, one size fits all?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, more often you're going to find someone who needs a smaller condom than a larger one, because you have to worry more about slipping off. But yeah, for the most part, XL condoms are pretty much not necessary. They're just kind of boosting egos there, I think.
I would market them. That sounds like an ingenious. I'm going to get XXL condoms.
There you go.
They're going to be $3 more expensive than the regular ones.
Smart plan.
As we talk about condoms and other reasons to use contraception, in New York, is this law still on the books?
Yeah, so what's happening happening here is they're currently trying to repeal a law where condoms can be used as evidence of prostitution.
In New York City.
In New York City, yep. So right now, until that gets repealed, basically if the cops are pulling someone over, not necessarily in a car, but pulling them to the side to have a conversation, if they think this person may be selling sex, which is illegal, they're going to use that person carrying a condom as evidence of prostitution. More often this is with female prostitutes than male prostitutes, but I'm sure it goes both ways.
And this can be problematic because then prostitutes might not be using condoms, which is it's a very bad thing, because then they're going to be getting diseases potentially and maybe getting pregnant, and that would be a huge problem. And then also there are groups like Planned Parenthood and other health services, like the health department there, I think, was the one that commented in this particular article, which will have been posted on our Facebook page by the time this gets aired out. And it said that they give out hundreds of free condoms a day, and it's like, here's a condom, now go submit for your pat down by the police.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty messed up, especially in recent news. We've had twice, I can't think of who the first woman was, but the other one was, the female actress from 12 Years a Slave that got really big. She won all the awards. She was apparently kissing her partner, who is white, and police saw this, and the story is that she's being accused of prostitution, and just completely ridiculous for so many reasons. And then, so just anyone could potentially be accused of prostitution if they're carrying condoms, which responsible adults who might be who might be getting ready to have sex at any point could have that used against them in a legal case, which is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so that is an example of a reproductive right that maybe is being violated. Well, let's not say maybe. That's being violated, probably.
Yep.
Because people should have the right to have safe sex and to decide whether or not they want to get pregnant or not, and whether or not they want to be at risk for disease. And by making it a dangerous thing to carry a condom, that's hugely problematic. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now, the government regulates a whole lot of things with birth control, and we will post something on the Facebook page that details different laws in different states and places about what you can do with receiving Plan B and regular birth control, and who has to be involved and who has to know. We posted an article either early this month or last month about parents and their right to know about whether or not their teenager is getting an abortion and who deserves to be involved, and we will get to abortion, have no fear. But there are things where people will be denied coverage because a pharmacist disagrees with what they think in certain states, and they won't be able to get the morning after pill. What Plan B is if you are not using a hormonal method and you have sex and you believe you may become pregnant, you take this pill, and as I understand it, it flushes your uterine wall.
So yeah, if you're already pregnant, it's not going to do anything. A lot of people are equating it to the abortion pill, which is total bullshit. Instead, it basically causes you to have your period. It's just a really strong dose of birth control, so it's going to stop ovulation, kick on the hormones that are going to start your period. And you can take it even if you're on a hormonal birth control method. The idea, though, is if you're taking it, if you're not on a hormonal method, if the condom breaks and you just want some extra security, it can happen in the case of sexual assault, or just simply unplanned sex. You weren't prepared.
Yeah.
And it's effective up to 72 hours, but you want to take it as soon as possible.
ASAP, yo. That's what it stands for. Since we mentioned abortion, let's go into there, because there are also a whole lot of regulations about abortion in a whole lot of different places, in a whole lot of really creepy, weird, and controlling ways. This would be another place where we would start playing Teresa's What track.
What?
Gosh. So, abortion is... Would you say abortion is a form of contraception?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. No. I don't think abortion is a form of contraception.
No, contraception prevents pregnancy.
Prevents pregnancy. Yeah, contraception against conception. Like
sure.
That, yeah.
If you say so.
No, conception. Don't want to do it. I was an English major. And so there are a lot of places, a lot of people who disagree with the idea of abortion, and I don't know that this is really the venue to discuss the morality of abortion or not, but it seems like it should be a human right for people to decide whether or not they're going to nurture a potential for life in them for 9 months or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, like if I decided to kidnap Nicole because without her blood I would die, and then I had to hook myself up to her, and she had to like feed me her blood, and like I just had to use her kidneys or something, and I needed to be hooked up to her via a machine. You know, it'd be really nice of her to agree to that. But no one would say that she's within her rights to deny me that.
No, and David's a fully developed, grown human being, and we're talking about a fetus, a bunch of cells that are doing that same thing that David's talking about. And a lot of people say, okay, well, adoption or various other alternatives, but pregnancy itself and delivery can actually be really dangerous to
and cost a lot
someone
of
who's
money.
pregnant. Yeah, and super expensive.
Well, there are the horror stories, which aren't the ones that we're probably going to like focus on, but there's the thing about 14-year-old girls who have been molested and who get pregnant, and then their parents won't get an abortion for Uncle Billy's incest child, and that is just like a whole level of horrifying and terrible.
And we're not trying to quantify whose abortion is, okay and whose isn't.
This is true.
I think, at least in my opinion, I think anyone who doesn't want to be pregnant has the right to make that decision. Where a lot of people, including lawmakers, are trying to say only in case of rape, only in case of incest, or risk to the woman's health. But I mean, even risks to the woman's health that they aren't considering, are huge, whether it's the financial, then they can't pay for the rest of their health care, or maybe they're in a violent relationship and being pregnant is dangerous for a few reasons. Anyone who doesn't want to be pregnant shouldn't have to be pregnant. That's the end there.
Yeah, you don't like that. That's where the line is drawn. Is do you want to be pregnant? Yes or no? No. Okay, like this is your option.
Yeah.
And so people, for religious reasons, for moral reasons, might be against abortion. And sorry, I guess.
Really.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot about allowing what makes you uncomfortable control other people's lives.
Yeah, I feel like that's what our country and constitution are built on, is that you're an independent person, you have the right to do what you want to do, especially in the cases where it doesn't harm another person, which, as we're talking about, a fetus is a group of cells. It's not considered in the medical world a person until it's born. And even if, like, with the example before, I am a person, and I do not have the right to use Nicole's body as my life factory for 9 months. I don't have the right to do it for a day. Yeah.
Like, that is not my right to do to her. And so I feel like with a fetus, it has there is even less of a right.
Yes. Yeah.
Since Teresa and I usually like to talk about media, we have a few media things to mention because it's great. Teresa was recently watching Battlestar Galactica, and there are just a couple spoilers, but I will not reveal the identities of any Cylons, I promise. In Battlestar Galactica, at one point, they come from a very liberal society where birth control is totally not an issue. Abortion is allowed and legal. There are a few conservative sects that are unhappy with this, but for the most part, people are okay with it, and it's an open thing. However, the entire human race is mostly eliminated, so there's about 30,000 people left alive. And so the president, who is like fought her entire life for women's rights, has to sign a law that makes abortion illegal. And it's just like such a painful episode, and it's so bad. Because she's like, we need children, like we need them in the world, like we will do anything we can to provide a space for them, because that's what we need. But right now, the human race is not going extinct, as the case is.
Not even close.
and there is not unlimited resources being provided to raise children because of how desperately we need humans in the world.
Talking on resources, a lot of the argument too, we'll just, raise it anyway, or the foster care system or adoption. It's like, you say this, you say you want to not let me have birth control to try and be responsible and prevent pregnancy. You want to say I can't choose not to be pregnant once I'm pregnant, but then you don't offer any real support once that baby's there. And we're cutting food stamps, we're cutting so many programs that are essential, education, and then, as I'm sure we all know, the foster care system can be really horrific for some people.
And this you and this we that we're referring to are mainly people in legislation and political power. It is probably not anyone who is listening.
Yeah, probably not.
just so
I'm not attacking
you know.
You listeners.
Well, gosh. There was a guy once who asked me how many unborn babies I had killed, who was my legal representative in the legislation in Washington State.
Probably.
Hi, John, if you're out there.
How many you personally killed?
Yeah, how many I personally had killed.
Oh, good.
I was like, none, I just want to get BPA out of water bottles, actually.
Right.
That's what I'm here for, because I'm concerned about all types of health.
Yeah, so Dave and I have both lobbied for a lot of different issues under Planned Parenthood or through Planned Parenthood, whatever, and including trying to pass the Safe Baby Bottle Act or something.
Yeah,
along those
it was
lines.
just like, remove this carcinogenic plastic from the bottles, or mark that it's there.
Yeah, but because we're from Planned Parenthood, it sounds like both of us have been in situations where we just automatically get shut down and called names sometimes, or just asked really inappropriate questions.
Yeah.
And it's pretty ridiculous.
Truth. Let's see, other good media things. You saw Obvious Child.
Yeah,
Tell me about Obvious Child.
Obvious
I'm so curious.
Child, awesome. It got started out as being called the abortion rom-com, which is a terrible description, and the creators and stars in the movie aren't too thrilled about it because it really kind of negates what the film's about and takes away some viewership, I'm sure. But basically they're trying to fight the idea that if you get pregnant, you have to have this kid, whether you're going to raise it or put up for adoption. You know, I'm sure plenty of you have seen Knocked Up, where...
Juno.
Yeah, and Juno. So Knocked Up, one night stand, these total complete opposites end up being brought together in love because they're...
Child.
Yeah, because they're pregnant and unintentionally, and neither of them want or are really ready to be a parent, but who cares?
Because love.
Yep, because love. And then we have Juno, where not ready to be parents. They're not together, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
And they decide...
They go for adoption.
Yeah, they go for adoption after deciding that abortion is too whatever creepy. I don't know.
So
the way they set it up.
The thing that grumped me out about Juno is that they have her go into a clinic, and it's not there's no way where that says it's a Planned Parenthood or anything, but she goes into a clinic and there is a young woman there who is a bit inappropriate and talks about the flavor of her boyfriend's junk with certain condoms involved, and like leers a little bit at the main character, and the walls are gross and peeling, and it looks like there's probably some sort of bug infestation in the couch.
And really, just like, as someone who supports Planned Parenthood, and has worked, I've literally worked in the clinic and in the admin building to basically have, like, my time there summed up by this girl
2 seconds in
who's,
Juno.
like, totally super inappropriate, which would never happen in Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, to counter this, Obvious Child is saying, all right, we're going to have this one-night stand. And she ends up getting pregnant. Jenny Slate, who's a fabulous comedian, ends up getting pregnant, and basically it's her deciding not only to have the abortion, which is an easy conversation for her, or an easy decision for her, and a conversation she has with her mother, who reveals she's had an abortion. I'm giving you all sorts of spoilers.
No, this is
I'm
okay.
really
I'm really sorry. Spoiler alert, Obvious Child.
And also her best friend. And it's just great because she's able to have these conversations, and she's recognizing it's a difficult decision, but it's the right one for her. And then it's her figuring out how to tell this guy, who she thinks is really great and could see possibly having a relationship, but like, do I tell him? Don't I tell him? Is it going to mean he never wants to talk to me again because I'm doing it either way?
Yeah.
But it's really great the way that they bring it together, and Planned Parenthood actually collaborated with the creators of the movie So they have her go into a Planned Parenthood, and really it represents what you're gonna see in one of those clinics, which is pretty great.
I want to talk a little bit about clinics, since we have like these two juxtapositions. Like we have Juno and we have Obvious Child. We have Planned Parenthood, and then we have some clinics, not all clinics, but there are some pregnancy centers, as I often see them called, that we talked earlier about reproductive rights, and we gave a definition that you were going to receive medically accurate information about your reproductive parts, whether you're a male or female or somewhere in between, and it's part of the ever-continuing fight to make sure that those rights are equally represented and that you have access to them. The reason for the medically accurate bit is because there's a lot of medically inaccurate information that's going around out there. Some good sources are, of course, Planned Parenthood, and then there's the Guttmacher Institute, which is Guttmacher, I think.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
I have a really scared face on my face as I was trying to verify the spelling.
And so the Guttmacher Institute, spell it how you will. And they're both really, really great things. I remember when I was in high school, I recommended TeenWire to a lot of folks. I heard that was a good one.
TeenWire.
I used it a couple times. There are some clinics that give incorrect information, that tell you that having an abortion will cause cancer, that tell you things that just aren't true, that will show you pictures of a more advanced fetus to try to convince you not to get the abortion because then it looks more like a baby.
Yep. And not just providing medically inaccurate stuff, but really they can be very manipulative and pressuring. I've heard stories of a young lady that I knew at college who went into one of these intentionally, basically to report, and she was talking about how the women are often isolated from the friend or partner, whoever, who brought them in there, and who are just really made to feel guilty, and promises of, we'll help you, we'll do this, we'll do that, just don't have an abortion. And often they're not going to help, or maybe they provide very little help that ultimately doesn't do a whole lot when you're choosing to raise a kid.
And one of the articles that Nicole provided had a story of a woman who went in and I think had not yet made up her mind, but in the end decided she was going to keep the child. But since the clinic would not tell her whether or not she was pregnant, for fear she would decide to have an abortion, she did not get prenatal care as soon as she could have.
Yeah.
And so it became a self-defeating thing. They're trying to do this thing and promote their own agenda, and that's actually that. I just heard 1,000 silent voices say, what about Planned Parenthood's agenda? As far as I can tell, every time I've been in a Planned Parenthood, every time I have worked as a peer advisor or peer counselor for someone with a Planned Parenthood, my main goal has been make your own decision. Whatever you want to do, this is the information. Please do whatever you feel is the right choice for you. The thing is not like chloroform pregnant people and give them abortions. It's make your own decision. And whenever people say, what's the agenda? The agenda is medically accurate and accessible information and services for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we have kind of the great word juxtaposition of these crisis pregnancy centers, as they call themselves, or people on the other side are fighting to call them limited service pregnancy centers. To get some more medically accurate stuff out there. So we have them lying to you about various things, including the effectiveness of condoms. I mean, the comment that sperm and HIV can pass through a condom like rice through a tennis racket. I mean, that's almost an exact quote from one of these places. And then me going into Planned Parenthood as a client and going in for a pregnancy test, and my parents are very excited to listen to this podcast.
Yes, I'm sure they are. They're like, wait, when did this happen?
Yeah. So, and just kind of going in, and it's very straightforward. It's okay, here's the test. And they kind of asked, are you wanting to be pregnant? Are you excited about this? And the look on my face and the tone in my voice was, no, definitely not. And there was no automatic thing of, we can always have an abortion. I mean, there's nothing like that. They had me take the test before they gave me any options, and the test was negative and it didn't end up being a big
And they're
deal.
like, "Have
So
a
it's
nice
fine."
day.
Yeah. So, I mean, just those huge differences. And even as I was mentioning how the other side is kind of fighting to have limited service pregnancy centers, there's so many people who are against these reproductive rights that I think at least 2 years in a row I was lobbying to just change that name, to get them called limited service pregnancy centers and get them to say that, no, we're not staffed by doctors and nurses, we're all volunteers, and basically you can continue to do what you're doing, but don't be manipulative, don't lie, say who you are and what you're doing. And huge opposition. I think we ended up having to move on to other things because I'm pretty sure that still didn't pass after several years.
Well, and like misrepresentation is just such a terrible thing. There was one of my friends who has dealt with emotional problems and is bipolar. When it was saw several counselors while she was in high school, and after she had turned 18, she was still seeing counselors, and she started seeing someone, and they became sexually active. And she switched therapists, and the therapist told her she had to go off her birth control because it interfered with her mood medication. And then when she switched therapists again, the therapist was like, no, it doesn't. What is going on? And so people should not have to choose between their potential sexual health and enjoyment or their mental health. Like that option should not exist, and it's terrible that happened.
Yeah, and what right does that doctor have to just completely lie and impose that belief onto this friend? I mean, it's a ridiculous thing because towards the end of George W. Bush's presidency, he pushed through a law that was basically a moral clause for doctors and pharmacists and all these other medical professionals to basically choose, no, I'm not going to write a prescription for birth control or Plan B, or no, I'm not going to fill this because it goes against my beliefs, despite your health needs and desires. I mean, the fact that they can just choose based on their conscience, their morals, is not only ridiculous because they're inflicting those upon someone else, but I remember when I was first hearing about it, I'm like, this could go in so many other ways. I mean, they could just pick and choose who they felt like it applied to. I mean...
They could be like, oh, well, like, I don't like the way you look, so I'm going to fill your prescription because I don't want people who look like you in the world.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's around race, which was what I was thinking, you know, originally, like, what if someone's racist and they don't want African American people procreating, but... so they fulfill that prescription, but no one else's, or whatever. I mean, there's no enforcement. There's no oversight to this law.
It's just one person makes the decision right then and there.
Yep. And it's, I mean, that's still a thing. I don't know how, but it is. Oh, but on the positive side of that, Plan B is now available on the shelves of different pharmacies and some grocery stores even.
Is that just in Washington State or is that nationwide?
Ooh, gosh, maybe it is. I don't know.
I think it might just be Washington State. I mean, that sounds like a really positive thing to be nationwide.
So, let me tell you, I am thankful every day to live in a state like Washington. But yeah, so at the very least in Washington, you can pick up that Plan B off the shelf and not have anyone interfere with your ability to get that.
Yeah. And you know, so we have a lot of big ideas in this episode that we have covered, and there's a lot of information. And so if you have any questions, please let us know. Like a sort of a brief recap, we talked about what are reproductive rights, the right to medically accurate information, and also the right to pursue access to services to help your reproductive health, no matter your gender identity. We've tried really hard in this episode to use gender-inclusive language because there are people who identify as male who have vaginas, and that's totally okay.
Yep.
And they can get pregnant, and so, you know, we're here, and we're trying to make sure that you folks are not invisible, and that you're out there. And if there's any way that you have suggestions that Nicole and I, or Teresa and I in the future, or Teresa and whoever, I'm sure she's going to find a buddy down where she is now to record with.
Yep.
If you have any suggestions, please give them to us. Other things we talked about were different methods of contraception.
Yep, we talked about that. We didn't really go into what some of the laws around birth control and abortion were.
Oh, we
Like the big
didn't.
Hobby Lobby ruling that employers
Oh,
can
shit.
decide based, exactly, can
Oh.
decide based on their beliefs. You can be on birth control, which is ridiculous because insurance, you pay for your insurance, it comes out of your paycheck. Like, your employer isn't the one paying for this. It's just saying, no, I'm not going to give you the option to pay for it.
Yeah, and so the decision, if you are not familiar with it, great decision, by which I mean terrible.
Sarcasm.
Yes, there we go. It's there. The decision is that there's this company called Hobby Lobby, right? And they are a closely knit, owned business, owned by just a few people, and their religious beliefs tell them that they should not use birth control.
Yep.
And they have decided that they are not going to pay insurance, and as Nicole said, this is the insurance that their employees pay for, but they receive it through their place of employment.
Yep.
And they've decided that insurance will not cover birth control. Then this is regardless of anyone's needs. This is regardless of, do you have an ovarian cyst? Do you have a buildup of blood in your uterus that is making your day-to-day life painful? Do you have any other number of legitimate medical concerns?
Besides not wanting to get pregnant, which is totes a legitimate
Which is also a legitimate
concern.
health concern. Thank you.
Again, we're not trying to quantify who deserves it more than other people.
Yeah. And so they've said basically, nope, not gonna get it. Thanks for your money to pay for your insurance.
Yep, and the Supreme Court totally said, yeah, we are on your side with this one, which is mind-blowing. Some other laws, not so much around birth control, but abortion, we have the vaginal ultrasound.
Oh, yeah, transvaginal ultrasound, which is an unnecessary and invasive procedure that provides an ultrasound where the ultrasound one is inserted into your vagina. When that shit works fine on the outside.
Yep.
And the doctors will make people who want to get an abortion look at the ultrasound images, which is not necessary. It demeans their intelligence as if they do not know what the action they're undertaking is. There are 3-day waiting periods, which can be a huge problem for people if, the only Planned Parenthood you live near that will provide an abortion is a 4 or 6 hour drive away, and you work all the time to make ends meet. You can't get that time off to make both of those visits.
Yep. I mean, these laws are disproportionately impacting low-income folks. People who maybe don't have a regular doctor who's willing to do it, or don't have the insurance to go to a hospital, because some hospitals provide abortions. And so the clients of Planned Parenthood and other similar clinics are more often than not low-income people, so these laws are really strongly impacting them. Oh, and then the laws that they're doing around the clinics themselves, trying to shut them down. I mean, it's not just limiting people's access to them, but or limiting their right to make that decision, but it's limiting their access, such as there's one that's ridiculous. It's regarding the size of the maintenance closet or janitorial closet. It has to be so big for whatever bullshit
because
reason.
Fire.
Yeah, sure.
You can't make a fire in a small closet, Nicole.
There you go.
Come on.
That's gotta be it. So
the fire department came to my work today. Our closets are big enough to make fires, and so we passed.
Oh, good.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, they're making those laws so that clinics have to shut down either permanently, or if they're lucky enough to have enough funding, they can remodel. But I mean, these clinics are so underfunded, so much of them rely on donations from the community, that they're just shutting down left and right.
And that takes away the only service that some people have, the only doctor's visit they get a year.
Yeah, because abortion is less than 3% of what Planned Parenthood does.
Less than 2% in Washington State.
There you go. Planned Parenthood does more than any other organization in the country, if not the world, to actually prevent abortion.
And that's the other 97% of the work is let's not have abortions.
Yeah. Whether it's education or providing birth control, or plenty of women get their breast exams there, which is why whenever a year, maybe more, there's a huge thing about Susan G. Komen and that whole Birth, what was that?
I have no idea.
Oh, Susan G. Komen. It was something around Planned Parenthood. Oh, they were no longer going to help subsidize the cost of breast exams at Planned Parenthood. You don't remember this?
I don't think I heard about it.
Oh my god, it was huge. It didn't last very long because people were pissed. And Susan
like,
G. Komen
no.
backed the fuck down.
She was like, oh, I changed my mind.
Yeah, but it was like their new executive director or whatever was like, I'm against Planned Parenthood, so we're no longer going to help subsidize the cost of these breast exams.
What? So you like cancer? Like,
yeah, it's just...
We are a pro-cancer organization.
Yeah.
Huh.
So...
There's
things like that.
There's a lot of BS that gets thrown around
yeah.
when Planned Parenthood, when people get involved against Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. It's an unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back to the closing statement?
Sure.
So we've talked a lot about the laws in relation to Planned Parenthood, as we just did. We've talked about different types of contraception,
mm-hmm.
and the main thing is that you should make your own decision for yourself. Like, we have these great ideas about like how there should be access, and you're probably not going to change our mind on that. But you should act in whatever way feels right to you.
Yep.
You should do what that character in Obvious Child did, and talk to people who you trust, who
yep.
care about you, and who are going to listen and respect your decisions.
Yep.
Because that is an important thing.
And you should watch Obvious Child.
And you should watch Obvious Child, which is clearly what I have to do this weekend
yeah.
if I wasn't so busy this weekend. And so the reason this is important to feminism in general is those regulations that we were talking about, they don't really exist for men. I can get Viagra through
mm-hmm.
my insurance. I can just get that paid for and be like, sweet, I now have a drug to have sex with. That
yeah.
is the one purpose of that drug, is more sex for me.
But if I work for Hobby Lobby or a Catholic organization, then they can decide that that's not something that they want me to have. And those are both laws that have been passed. And yeah, so it's just ridiculous that there's laws deciding that I can't have birth control, whether I'm trying to prevent pregnancy, whether I'm trying to treat my endometriosis,
mm-hmm.
or whatever, and yet David can get a pill that allows him to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
And
harder, better, faster, stronger.
And the response to me is, just don't have sex and you won't need birth control.
Yeah, that's a huge, like, there's the double standard that we've talked about in other episodes. Like, if men have sex, that's okay. Women have sex, not okay.
But gays can't be together either, so...
Well, we can't have too many men having sex,
yeah, so
obviously.
I don't know who these men are supposed to have sex with, but...
Me neither,
they're allowed to.
Yeah, so wait, so I can have sex, but I have no one I'm allowed to have sex with except other men. I never thought of it that way before.
But even then, that's condemned. And there's laws against, not laws directly against.
There were laws against.
There were. And there's laws saying that, your relationship isn't legitimate and you shouldn't be together, basically. Yeah. I mean...
And so, there are a lot of places where equality needs some work, and having people who can get pregnant and having everyone have equal access to reproductive rights and medically accurate information is the best way for everyone to make informed decisions in any relationship. And so this really helps everyone. There isn't anyone who gets the short end of the stick here and is like, oh my gosh, because Nicole now knows all these things, somehow I have been diminished.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. Well, hey, thank you everyone so much for listening, and a big thank you for Nicole, wherever you are. I would like you to applaud. Whether others can hear us or not.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. I've been listening to the podcast. I enjoy it, and I was very excited when David and Teresa asked me to do this.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can have you back sometime. I'd like
love
that. And we have trouble making it up sometimes. All right. Have a good... Oh, normally we talk about what we're going to do next, because you probably...
What are you doing next? I'm excited.
I think... Next, we might talk about domestic violence.
Ah, another good one.
Yeah.
Yep.
A good one.
Yep.
I remember that one. Oh, whoa.
I can totally provide some info now that I'm working at a DV shelter.
That would be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
So next month we may be talking about domestic violence. Don't quote me on it. That is the current...
Which can include sexual assault.
Which can include sexual assault. Keep an ear or an eye to the Facebook page, I suppose, and you will find out things as they happen. So we will probably discuss domestic abuse, but possibly not. Don't worry too much about it. Hope you all have a lovely month. Bye-bye.